In this specialization, we cover a lot of high concepts in design because I think that it's extremely important to understand the fundamentals of design thinking. But that doesn't mean that we should ignore the brass tacks of design. And so what I wanted to do here is offer a short video on how I go about doing pixel mockups, because I think that I want you to see one way that it's possible to rapidly put together visual designs that approximate what the real site will actually look like. So here I've got open on my laptop, I've got Keynote. Keynote works very similarly to other software that you can use. I like it because it lets me move things around quickly. PowerPoint, Google Slides, lots of other stuff works similarly. Some people use fancier tools like Illustrator or Photoshop for mockups. For me, they're a little bit slow, and I like the kind of control and level of fidelity that I get with slide software. I find it actually works really well for this purpose. So let's say that we wanted to make the Coursera homepage. This is what the Coursera homepage looks like on the web. You can see UC San Diego's new big data specialization is right there, front and center. And it's a really nice, clean site that they've got here. So one great way to make a mock-up, if we were going to make a new version of this, for example, is grab a screenshot of an existing site. And on a Mac, you can do that with Command-Shift-3. You get equivalent functionality on Windows with the print screen key, stuff like that. So we drop, what we can then do is we can paste that image in, and I've done that already here. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to show the rulers on this page. And what this lets me do is it lets me drag out some grid lines. And so one thing that you see that Coursera has done a nice job of is they set up this grid here. So boom, you've got that. And you can see, I'm not going to put them all in, but you can see there's a nice baseline set up right there. And then we've got our box here. So this gives you a feel for the grid that we've got and what's going on with the current site. Now let's think about, say for example, we wanted to change how the specializations show up. And so maybe as opposed to having 8 specializations, we wanted to show 6, but we wanted to have them be bigger. So one thing that you can do here that's really useful is I'm going to make a copy of this slide. And what I'm going to do then, and everything I'm showing you, I want to emphasize, is all available in a number of different tools. I just wanted to give you one way to do this. So in Keynote, what I can do is I can edit the mask of this so that I'm getting just a sub-piece of the content. And you can do this not only for grabbing elements of a page that you've made, but you can grab different elements of different pages and then collage them together. It works really well. So here we've got this. I'm now going to move it back. I'm going to duplicate this slide by hitting Command-D. And then I'm just going to paste in this new one. It shows up exactly at the same location as the old one. So maybe I'm going to make this bigger. Boop, boop, put it right there. And we can do a couple of clever things here. Like I'm going to edit the mask on this so that this might change how this looks a little bit. So we've made our hero image smaller. I'm going to get rid of the template content that you've got there. And then the other thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to grab the title. And you know what, actually for this title, I'll just give you a feel for, again, this isn't rocket science, but if I wanted to add in some text, and we could have popular specializations, and we'll put that here. And I'm going to center that. And one thing that you see in slide software is it shows me a grid line here when things are center aligned. Or if I didn't see that grid line and I wanted to, one thing that I can do is I can do an align objects, and I can align them to be center aligned, for example, which will line the text up with the center of the image. Okay, so this is one simple example of how you can change a page. You can use the same strategy if you want to be able to do responsive design or something like that. So I'm going to get rid of our blank pages here, and I'm going to make a duplicate of this. And I could show another mock of what this might look up like at a narrower resolution. So let's say we were going to make the phone version of this, and that the phone version looked just like what we've got here, only let's see what we'll do to make a change here. So I'm going to pull this in. In fact, I'm going to make a couple copies of this because I want to split apart some different elements. So, you know, another thing that you can always do just to show you is if you've got a particular asset, most of the time, aha, here we go. So you can hop in and inspect an element, and then you can find the image file within there. But truthfully, I think it's often a lot easier just to screenshot things and drag it around. Okay, so I'm going to set up, we're going to separate out the logo, and then got that done, and then we're going to separate out some of these buttons here, the institutions log in and sign up, and then we'll peel off the hero image from the rest of it. So maybe for the mobile version, what we do is that it's like it's a 2x2 grid. Okay, that's pretty cool. So and you know what we'll do actually to make a mobile version is we're going to start and we'll make something that is nominally 480 pixels wide, which is a pretty standard width for a mobile page. And I can start to see this is going to be a little small, so it's a little bigger, and then crop it a little more. These grid lines are really your friend here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And if you ever want to get it exact, the Arrange tab here is nice. So if my grid line's at 500, and I know that it's 480 pixels wide, I can just type that right in. And oh, apparently this other grid line is not exactly at 480. Boom, there we go. Looks great. And so and then we're going to baseline align these again, because remember, you know, when you're putting text, so you can think about aligning things a bunch of different ways. And this is a nice example, is that I've got these two elements, and I could set it up so that they are aligned top. Well, that's stupid, because here it doesn't look too bad. But often you'll get things where the top is different, and it just looks really jaggy like that. And so in general, for anything that is text, what you want to make sure, drag out another grid line here, is that the baselines line up. So we've got a good baseline there. The baseline, of course, is the what the level of text sits on. And I'll show you that. I'm guessing many of you know this already, that you can see how the descenders in typography, like the G's and the P's, those drop below the baseline. So the baseline is this ledge that most letters sit on. And then we talked about this in the graphic design lecture, but since we're zoomed in here, the X height of a typeface is how high it gets here. And so the distance between the baseline and the top of a normal lowercase letter, that's your X height. And then your descenders drop below that, and your ascenders, like the curve of the T, the dot of the I, the capital letters, they go above that. All right, so we're going to zoom back out. We've got a nice mobile width here. It's looking good. And you can drive around with the arrow keys. You can snap to grid, whatever works. And you make everything to whatever level of fidelity you care about for your purposes. So some things will be super pixel precise. Other things might be a little bit less so. Different stages of, depending on where you are in the process, you may care about the fonts and the colors, or you may not. So we can use kind of a slightly cooler typeface there. Helvetica is a classic, but it's not for all the things all the time. So hey, this is looking pretty good. Awesome. And that's an example of how you can do a quick mobile mockup. Now, while I'm here, I want to show you a couple other things. So one thing that you can do is you can set up the screen size of your slide deck to be whatever is most useful for your design purposes. What I like to do is set the slide size to be whatever the largest screen size I'm going to work with is, and then I'll put the smaller ones in there, the mobile, the tablet, something else like that, using grid lines to indicate what the widths are. What's nice about having some extra room here, if you need it, is that you can put notes in, like for your media queries, which would give you different rendering at different screen widths. You could say this is for anything less than 720px wide. And then the desktop one you could label as being a different size. Now, obviously, on a lot of pages, and to go back to the Coursera one, this one included, there's a lot of information below the fold. It's useful to start out by working above the fold, but you want to be able to go below the fold too. So we've got all this other content. And you can grab that in a couple of different ways. For something that is just a few screenshots long, we can... so I showed you how you can hit Command-Shift-3 to grab an entire screen. You can also hit Command-Shift-4 to grab just a piece of this. So we can grab this here, because that's where the content is, and then we'll grab our footer here and grab that. Awesome. And then we can do the same thing. So we could just put another page here. You get an additional page in Keynote by hitting Command-Shift-N. The exact key commands depend on the software that you've got. And we could drop in those elements just like we did with the other stuff. So we don't want to show Nita's screenshot here too much. So I would cut this part in case she has scandalized stuff. She's nice enough to let me use her laptop. Okay, so boom, we've got these two elements screenshotted in here. And let's see, what else might we do? So certainly one thing that you could do is, this will screw up some of the layout that I have, but it's useful pedagogically, is I can make it 3,000 pixels high, that's fine. And then I could actually show where the fold is with a grid line here. And so I could say, well, this will be below the fold, and then this is below that. And that's basically what you need to be able to make a mock-up in slide software like Keynote or PowerPoint or Google Slides. You're going to be able to drop in existing content from your site or from examples. You can write on top of that by adding text, and you can block out particular elements if you want to be able to add in new things with the shape tools. At different stages in your design process, they may be just placeholders, or they may be real content. And that's really all you need. And you saw how in just a few minutes we were able to monkey around with a bunch of different design ideas. I show this in part because you can do this during a design meeting. And somebody's like, well, what if it were like this? 2 minutes later, you've got what you need. This stuff doesn't need to take a long time. And that's really why I like using slide software as opposed to HTML at this level in the design process. Happy designing.